Star Wars 7x7, episode 2856. We're in the midst of a series of conversations about Star Wars Celebration, and in particular about hosting stages at Star Wars Celebration. Earlier this week, I had Amy Ratcliffe's conversation about Star Wars Celebration Europe. That was the first time she was hosting a stage at Celebration. Today, we're going to start off the conversation I had with her about hosting for her second time at Celebration Orlando. Punch it. Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. So Amy Ratcliffe hosted the behind the scenes stage at Celebration Europe in 2016, and she got the opportunity to host that stage again at Celebration Orlando in 2017. She also hosted a stage in Chicago in 2019, and she's hosting again in 2022 in Anaheim, though we don't know what stage that's going to be yet, at least as of the time of this recording. It hasn't yet been announced. But because this was her second hosting gig at Celebration Orlando, she had the benefit of previous experience to bring to the conversation, and also got to talk a bit about what was going on around Orlando. Not a heck of a lot she could talk about in terms of the panels themselves, because at the time we had the conversation, the panels hadn't yet been announced, but there was still a lot of ground to cover. And so why don't we just cover it? So here we go. Let's dive into part one of my conversation with Amy Ratcliffe about hosting at Celebration Orlando. Amy Ratcliffe, thank you so much for coming back on Star Wars 7x7 so soon after the last appearance.
I know. It's like I'm spoiled. It's like I feel so honored.
You're too kind. You're too kind. I'm thrilled to have you back. We had you on the show last year, and actually last year I think I was in an apartment in Galway, Ireland, interviewing you for Celebration.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right, yes.
Yeah, and so we're negotiating time changes and all that sort of thing, and yeah, and here we are again, not even a year later, and you're going to be back on the stage at Celebration Orlando. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm excited. I get to do it again. Do it all again.
And well-deserved, too. I sat in on many of your panels and had a grand old time. And so I'm really excited that you're going to be back.
Oh, thank you so much. That's nice to hear. It was my first time, so doing that on that scale anyway. So it was definitely a learning experience last year.
So they announced that you were going to be back in December, but I have a feeling there were probably conversations that were happening prior to that. Can you shed some light on the process? Like, how did it all work out? Did they come to you and say, hey, that was great, we want you back again? Do you have to go through an application process? How did it work?
Basically the former. They, liked what I did in London and liked working with me. So they asked me back pretty early. I think it was in August.
Nice.
And it was basically like, hey, we enjoyed working with you. If you're interested, we'd like to have you back for Orlando. And that was a no-brainer because I had a blast. I mean, it's a lot of work, but I had a great time last year. So it was an immediate yes, please.
And that's the best feeling, to have it happen very quickly after the event, so that way there's no question about it whatsoever.
Yeah, there's not that, after you put the job application in and you're just waiting and waiting forever. Mm-hmm. And it's also kind of good to know for planning reasons, too. So I was happy to have it at least, locked down that early. And then it was just a matter of waiting until, or remembering, have we announced this yet? Am I allowed to say anything?
So you say a lot of work goes into it. Can you share with our listeners a little bit of that? What kind of work are you putting in to hosting a stage at Celebration?
Yeah, absolutely. Based on my experience last year, once the panel schedule is locked down, there's a getting in touch. At least I did with every panel that was going to be on my stage, and just discussing what they wanted to do, whether they wanted me as their host, because a few panels brought their own hosts. Basically anything I could do to make their panel, everything as smooth as possible. And then I'd kind of nudge them sometimes / bug them to set up rehearsal times so we can make sure their audio presentations or visual presentations or whatever they have, that it all works before before they walk up on stage and, when it's time for the panel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going back and forth with that. It's going back and forth with some questions. Different panels have different needs as far as if it can be kind of loose and free form, or if they have a presentation they want to follow and kind of a guided script. And then once you're there, we start rehearsals the day before the convention starts. So this year it'll be on Wednesday. Europe was 3 days, whereas Orlando was 4. And from my experience, I don't know how it is for David and Warwick Davis, but I have the panelists that we have a rehearsal schedule. They come in and basically just plug in their audio, kind of get a sense of the room. It just makes everybody feel a little more comfortable. It makes me feel more comfortable because then I get a chance mostly to meet people, at least appoint people before their panel. And after that, it's just running with the flow for as many days as the convention lasts, pretty much all day.
So you, for all intents and purposes, are your own sort of mini event planner within the bigger event.
Yes, though I have a lot of support. I have to credit Reed Expo, Reed Pop rather, the people who put on the convention, mm-hmm. for just offering tremendous guidance, especially Mary Franklin, as far as, and as far as giving me, because I'm always a person I like to possibly overplan, mm-hmm. which is not everybody's cup of tea. So Reed was always really supportive in helping me kind of I'm like, is it okay if I if I nudge these people again to get information? And she's like, no, go for it. They're very kind about this is your stage. You own it. You do what you need to do. And we are here for you. So it's kind of a fun feeling to take ownership of it and not claim it as my territory, because that sounds silly, but that I have some that they trust me to kind of do what is best.
Right. So it's the behind the scenes stage again. This is the same stage that you hosted last year, correct?
Correct.
And so can you tell me what the behind the scenes stage is all about? What's the particular mission of that stage as, say, compared to David Collins' Galaxy stage or Warwick Davis' Celebration stage?
Sure. I think definitely my lineup will be a little different in Orlando compared to what it was in Europe, just because it's in the States. There's more availability for behind the scenes people to come. Mm-hmm. And I can't say anything about what will be on my stage yet, but in general, behind the scenes is, it could be a look at behind the scenes on the animated series. It could be behind the scenes as far as hey, let's hang out with Fantasy Flight, or other licensees and talk about this is how they're making the products that you can't wait to get your hands on. And this is some of the announcements they have coming up. Or we usually have a books panel with either Del Rey or DK Publishing or a combo, kind of going behind the scenes of here are the authors, here are the illustrators. This is how we put this. For example, I think they talked about the Galactic Atlas, the maps book on my stage last year, mm-hmm. and just kind of digging a little deeper. And sometimes it's part presentation, sometimes it's more of an informal Q&A with a moderator and the panelists. So it's less, it's less of directors or talent or that kind of thing, and more of just kind of what goes into making Star Wars and also making Star Wars products. Got
it. And you said you can't share what you have on, coming onto your stage just yet. Just for our listeners, this is being recorded in mid-March, and this is going to broadcast in the week of Celebration, April. So all of those details will be available now, but we can't hear about it just yet, unfortunately. But Amy, can you tell us, do you have a say at any level on what comes onto your stage? Are you able to contribute and say, I think this particular panel, say, can we do a panel on say the new Baze and Chirrut novels that are coming out, and the new Jyn Erso novel that's coming out, and talk about how the Rogue One universe is going to be expanded? Are you able to suggest an idea like that?
Yes, actually, Lucasfilm and Reed reached out, not a few months ago or maybe a little before, about, do you have any panel ideas? And that was kind of something last year was not last minute, but being in Europe and I kind of came on late, there wasn't an opportunity to do that. So that was another thing about having a more of a heads up this year is I could say, yes, like here's the list of panel ideas I would like to happen. And then discussions go from there.
Gotcha. Are you able to say whether any of your ideas were accepted?
No, but I can share that. Like I really pushed for doing some behind the scenes on the animated series. So we'll see.
All right, we'll keep our fingers crossed. All right, I'll back you away from the cliff on that one, and I'll ask you what some of your favorite moments from 2016's behind the scenes stage. Let me get it out right. What were some of your favorite moments from last year's?
Oh boy, I think some of my highlights included for sure Doug Chang came by and did a presentation. He did actually kind of a keynote style, so it was nice that I could sit in the audience and just admire, his work. He has been a concept artist and production design in Star Wars in some way, I believe, since the prequels. I don't remember if it's since Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones. But he talked about kind of the way he works and advice he got from George Lucas as he, came up in Lucasfilm. And he was just remarkable and a very nice gentleman. And I would say like an unexpected highlight is that I had the senior designer for Star Wars products from Hot Wheels on my stage. And Hot Wheels makes all the character cars, which as somebody who purchases Star Wars collectibles, like they're not my particular jam, but he was walking through the design process and basically learning how much consideration and care they put into designing these vehicles to really bring in elements of the characters. It was fascinating. And his name is Brian Benedict, and he is just such a big Star Wars fan that his enthusiasm just was in everything he did and everything he said. And I had a delight talking to him.
I was in that panel actually in the
audience.
Oh,
you were? Yay.
Yeah, I remember. And yeah, he was. And I gather they're coming back. I think there's a thing on there on the Celebration website where in the exhibitors section where they're talking about how they're going to be selling the car that was voted on by people in the audience last year, the Biggs Darklighter.
Oh, Biggs Darklighter. Yeah. Oh, thank you for reminding me. I need to look up. Thank you for reminding me about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They're bringing it to Celebration. And I don't know if they're going to do another vote for next year's car. I imagine they probably would. Or at least, I guess it wouldn't be next year's car because we're not going to have a Celebration in 2018.
That is true. But maybe they'll vote for 2019. I don't know. They could do that online too. But that was a fun part of the panel as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say, when you were talking earlier about it being your first time on stage and, you learned a lot and so forth. And again, this is not trying to pry into what's actually coming onto your stage. So don't worry. I'm not trying to get state secrets out of you. But what would you say are things that were, that worked and were successful for you in 2016 that you want to bring to the stage in 2017?
What I learned, especially with having licensees on the stage, is there's a way to talk about products and how they're made without it being a sales pitch. Mm-hmm. And so there was definitely some understanding there for me as far as I'm learning how I can help or try to help the panelists make a fun and informative panel without it just feeling like they're, trying to get you to buy all, because you're going to buy them anyway, whatever it is. It's Star Wars.
Right.
If Fantasy Flight releases a new game, they don't really need to push it because you're in, you're sold. Mm-hmm. So that's something I definitely want to do more of in 2017 is just really working with people to make things less of a hard and fast presentation with certain guidelines or, because sometimes also they're a brand, it's a brand. So sometimes things have to be approved with Lucasfilm, as far as what they're allowed to tease and how much they can. So there's some back and forth, but I want to bring just a more casual, fun discussion about how things are done, and to 2017, and less of A, B, and C like information about our products.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And how do you think you will raise the bar or up the ante, whatever your idiom is of choice? How do you think you're going to improve upon 2016? Not that there was much room for it, if I may say so.
Oh, thank you. I think I mentioned being obsessed with over planning last time. And I think one way that I can improve is just being helpful and being prepared, but not being, I don't say not putting too much thought in it, because I put a lot of thought and care into it, but less rigid, I guess,
mm-hmm.
and have more fun and let that be and not be as stressed. Because at the end of the day, like last year, there was definitely a lot of nerves going into what it is. Public speaking has not always been my thing, and I'm beginning to, accept that it is part of what I do, and it's a good skills to have as far as having having hosting, as an available skill set is helpful in this day and age of where media is. So it's not just letting myself have more fun and not getting all worked up and nervous about it. And I think that would, if I can nail that,
mm-hmm.
I think that'll come through on stage too.
All right, we're going to take a pause right there, and we will pick up the rest of the conversation on tomorrow's episode. So it just remains for me to say now, thank you so much for joining me for this episode, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.